Okay, it's recording now.
Hi, my name is Courtney and I'm doing my speech on gender role and communication, and this is my audience. So for today I'm going to talk about my intro, then we're going to go into the body, which is female, male, and gay gender roles and communication, and also age in correlation with communication, and finally interactions between the genders, and then my conclusion. So I'm going to show you a video that kind of defines gender roles and communications, like the differences between male and female, how they talk to each other. Okay, so how many of you did see a difference between the way men and women talk? Okay, so yes, the way men and women speak to each other are very different, and we learn these gender roles even before we're born. So basically, when you're in your mom's stomach, you're already talked to as like, if you're a boy, they use words like tough guy and like my little boy and stuff like that. And then for girls, it's like sweetie, honey, more softer words. And also, family and media are heavily influenced into where our gender roles are. Should we break our gender roles? Yes and no. So if we were to keep it, then it's kind of like we're being held back from how we really want to express ourselves, because you don't really want to be stuck into a mold. But we shouldn't technically be breaking it, because if not, it can lead to like social alienation, like people shunning you because you're not talking correctly or you're not being perceived, and whatnot. And also, if we do break them, it should be broken into slowly rather than all at once, because shock might be a little too overwhelming. So now I'm going to talk about the female gender roles. So for females, it's lots and lots of details. So basically, they want to know every little aspect of it at all, and it's basically like being there without having to be there, knowing every detail without having to actually be there. Also, it's a lot of making connections. As females, that's kind of what they want to do. They want to know more personally about you and whatnot. So that consists of asking lots of questions and discussing your emotions. Like, how are you feeling, are you okay? And there's lots of dialogue. Also, there is lots of tentative speaking, more so like uncertainty in the way they talk. So it's kind of like but I don't know, which also consists of having a higher pitch. When you have a higher pitch, it sounds more like, you're not sure about what you're trying to say. And also tag questions. And finally, qualifying statements, which are like, I'm not a professional, but I think this, which kind of makes you uncertain to trust. And also for females, there's lots of nonverbal communication. So like lots of facial expressions and lots of hand motions and lots of physical contact between people. And then there's male gender roles. So for males, there's lots of punctuality and assertiveness, and they focus mainly on the activities than what is being said. And also, they like to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, which kind of gives them the sense of they have a lack of passion into what they're saying, but that's not the case. And there's lots of there's low nonverbal communication. Like, for example, when they sit down, they like to be more spread so that people cannot be very close to them. So, and it also asserts their sense of control of the area around them. And then, homosexual gender roles. It's more of a new study. Not much is known about it, and so like their communication style varies between each person. It depends on how they are brought up. Like, if they're brought up in a more masculine sense, then they'll take up more of the masculine qualities, rather than if they were brought up in a more feminine sense, they would come out a little more flamboyant and out there. So it's more so through whom which they primarily identify with. And then age and gender roles. So how many of you think that when you get older, your age depends on how you communicate? Okay. So as we get older, it does affect the way you communicate with one another. So as you grow up, you have less and less same gender friendships. So it's more so like just you and your spouse. Your spouse is supposed to be your best friend. You're supposed to be, one another's other halves. So you don't really get to communicate the way you used to. So you talk in a more reminiscent sense, like to ponder upon the past, like, oh, I remember the days when we did this, and then we did that, but now we do this, and now we do that. So it changes a lot. And also you kind of take a sense of, you kind of lose your masculine qualities or your feminine qualities, depending on your gender, and you kind of just become a little more in sync with one. And then finally, interactions between genders. So female, they want to know a lot of details. They like to talk to each other, find out everything, rather than for male and males, it's more cut and dry. It's very assertive and control. They want to know just very vaguely, just get from point A to point B, like I said earlier, rather than male and female. So male and female interactions, it's be more it's more so wanted rather than having a same sex, because for males, when they talk to a female, they can let out their emotions more so, rather than having to be all manly and emotionless when talking to other males. And it gives them a sense of expressing themselves, which they won't normally get. And then for females, it also shows them a sense of functionality, like basically how to just get to the point of what they're trying to say, rather than beating around the bush. And also, males tend to feel rejected when the females listen to them talk, because they're very cut and dry. So it gives the females a sense that they don't really a sense of not understanding or finding what they're talking about interesting. So males and females both feel, rejected because of this huge difference between the way they talk to each other. And for when they get into arguments, males typically don't like to apologize, because it gives them a sense of losing control or having less power, which they don't want. So females are usually the ones that have to apologize, and it makes the males seem very insensitive about, not being apologetic. And in conclusion, male and females are very different. Very different. Men like to be, kind of like cut and dry, to the point, while females are more, I want to know everything about you, let's hear more. And so, in a sense, that just gives a balance where we need to communicate more between each other and, you know, find a sense of balance. And that is all.
Yay.
Thank you.